Vamos a continuar, se ha mencionado ya después de esta primera visión más general algunos casos concretos y ha sido mencionado en más de una ocasión también a lo largo de la jornada de hoy. Vamos a ver ahora el caso de Islandia y para eso nos va a acompañar Björn Ásgrímsson, Senior Risk Analyst in the Central Bank in Iceland. Sorry for my broken pronunciation. It's not easy to go it. So, thank you.
Björn,
nice to meet you.
great to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you. Thank you.
Please.
Hello, everybody. I really appreciate this invitation to be here at this global pension program, and I will try to do my best to tell you about the Icelandic pension system and the main characteristics, and I will go through the structure, how it was created in a time, how it evolution of the system, and then about the size, and also, of course, the main challenges we have in the system. It's not a perfect system, but as you know, it has become a world famous system the last few years. As I understand, everybody wants to know a little bit about it, and I will try to do my best to that you have some takeaways or learn some lessons from us. So I have to tell you first that I come from the Central Bank of Iceland, just to see the context of my job there. That the Central Bank has a function of stabilize the prices, financial stability, and sound and secure financial activities. So that is a financial supervisory authority, is embedded into the, or has been merged to the Central Bank, and my function there is oversight of the pension system, risk and pension policy analysis, and pension policy advices. So it has become a more and more important part of the supervision, this oversight where I work at the Central Bank, because the system is very big in all terms, like GDP and the pension investment. Investments from pension funds are really important in the economy of Iceland, and therefore we watch it very well, both in terms of financial stability, what's the foreign exchange investment, and also investment in the domestic financial market. So this is very important, and getting more and more important in the supervision, especially the oversight. So the next slide, I will then spend some time on the evolution of the pension system in Iceland. It is around the year 1900. We had no pension savings in Iceland. And we were one of the poorest countries in Europe. We were fishermen and farmers living in turf houses. So this was the fact. So there was no labor market. It was just the civil servant officials. We were part of Denmark in those days, and they started to save for retirement in 1904, like 2% contribution. That is not very high, of course. More thought as a widow survival pension. And then in 1920, when the economy started to grow up a little bit, and then but very slowly, we were still very primitive economy. The civil servant officials, they established a pension fund with a contribution rate of 5%. It was priests and doctors and some teachers and also university professors. They started a small pension fund. It's not under non-legal requirements, but there was some private initiative. So not so much happened until 1945. We had the civil servants pension fund established by a special law in 1945. It was just covering civil servants, but the private market employees, they had no pension at all in those days. And then the year after, like in 1946, we established this Social Security in retirement program. So there was nothing there before. So So, and the retirement age was defined as 67 years. So, which is still the official retirement age, still today. So, during this, from 1945 and especially until into the 50s, there were a lot of private pension funds established by the bigger companies in Iceland. So, many of them were kind of a DB system and guaranteed by the employer in those days, in the 50s especially. So, there were quite many pension funds established, but not under a certain law. So, it was more like on the private initiative from the companies. Some big companies in the fishing industry and some also in retail business, they started this. So then it is 1969, it was a turning point because it was a trilateral agreement between the government and the labor union and Federation of the Icelandic Employers. They decided to start a pension system. They founded the base of the system we have today, that they had the strategy or what the future view was, it should be fully funded with no guarantees from the employer. So this was the basic. It was decided in those days. So all the pension funds had been established, most of them, they went under this the law, this social or the Retirement Pension Act. So this was really a turning point for this initiative. It took about 7 years to start from the negotiation until they made this. And this, 15 years later, we had a new amendment to the system that was meant to be mandatory for all employees, and contribution was raised from 8% to 10%. It was still 4% from the employee, and then 6% from the employer. So it was in 1974, we were trying to get other labor market which was outside the collective wage agreement into the system. So that went pretty well. And then in 1980, we tried to get all employees in the system. There's a special amendment in the law that self-employed should be there as well. And the contribution was still 10%. So that was very important in 1980 to get them in there, but it took some years they found some loopholes to escape from the system, but we finally got it through in later. And then in 1997, we had a new pension act, and then the contribution was increased to 12%, still 4% from the employee, but we managed to get in all the self-employed as well into the system. So this is the act we have today, very strict act, but has as well been amended several times. So the last amendment we had was in 2022, when we raised the contribution to 15.5%, but still it was 4% from the employee and then 11.5% from the employers. So this is with some special, of course, the system was has a target based on this 15.5% contribution. I will come to that later. So during this process from the early 69 and the 50s, we had more than 100 pension funds. So because of when we had this new law, of course there was a pressure from the industry or from the companies to merge together, because many merged the pension funds together because many pension funds they were simple single employer pension funds. So it was a pressure to multi-employer pension funds, and also it was a search for economies of scale to make it more effective. So the pension fund rapidly decreased to during the years, as you see, from more than 96 in 1980 until down to 21, what we have today. So this is quite a quick development there. So I have to tell you more about the system, how it's the structure of the system. What are the requirements? So pension fund membership is mandatory. It's completely mandatory. And based on most part of the pension saving is based on wage agreement. In most cases, yeah, on wage agreement. But it's totally mandatory. And the social partners, they select board members. And they are together in the labor union and the federation of employers. And the new board members are subject to fit and proper assessment. That's very important. All pension funds are autonomous entities with hundreds of employers contributing. This is very important to notice that. And it's classified as defined contribution, collective DC, if I may say so. Or it's difficult to find the line between there, but it's actually a defined ambition. It's an ambition for a certain replacement rate. So as I told you before, it is mandatory 15.5% contribution by law. It was changed in 2022. And the target of the system, the Pillar 2 mandatory part, is to deliver 72% replacement rate after our career, the lifetime career income average. So this is that was the meaning of the increase in contribution. Replacement rate was 56%, but was increased to 72%. And still, it's still only 4% from the employee, and now it's 11.5% from employers. And to tell you as well, it's the importance of the Pillar 2 system we have today. The mandatory part is the share of the old age pension which is paid in Iceland is more than half. It's up to 60%, which is paid of old age pension paid in Iceland. It's coming from the Pillar 2 occupational pension funds. So this is really, and this will increase the coming years and coming decades. The old age pension from Pillar 1, Social Security, will decrease the coming years. So if you add as well the Pillar 3 occupational pension, the Pillar 3 voluntary pension, the pension, old age pension coming from pension savings is about around 65%. So it's quite a big share. So I have to tell a little bit as well about the system that you see the mandatory pension saving, this Pillar 2, is 95% of these assets or the pension liabilities are with no guarantees from the employer. Risks are borne, all risks are borne by the members, longevity risk, market risk, and all risks. So you see the gray big slice there. It is the private sector employees, 77% with no guarantees. And then as well you have 18%, which is the share of the pension saving with civil servants, defined contribution, defined ambition. And then you have a defined benefit system, non-traditional from civil servants as well, but that is an old system. When we imposed the law in 1987, it was decided to shut down the old system for civil servants with these guarantees, shut it down and create a new division for new members in 1997 with a limited guarantees from the government and the municipalities. So this was a very important change in those days because the government, they saw it in future policies that you should limit the guarantees. We need to limit the guarantees for the civil servants, but the old division was very hard written in the law, the B division, defined benefit, so it was difficult to change that. So in 2016, became a pension reform that cut off the guarantees for the civil servants in the A division. So it was totally transformed to defined contribution or defined ambition as well from the private sector. This was also meant to make the labor market more flexible, because the civil servant have more generous pension entitlements than the private sector. So this was a very strong, strong move from the government. But they, of course, they had to put in a lot of money, billions of kronas, to balance the asset and liabilities. So this is the landscape we have today in this terms of assets and liabilities. But the old division DB, or the B division, is still has a lot of deficit. So it is the government is, of course, have to pay it in the very end. So the defined ambition system has a targeted replacement rate of 72% of area career income, 4 years CPI indexed, and total contribution 15.5%. So, but and the liabilities are based on a 3.5% discount rate. Real rate of return is quite high. So it is important to notice that it is a discount rate we have, but it's no promise in the system. So it is actually a target system or ambitious system with this 72% replacement rate. But DB system, the B division for the government civil servants is, as I said, closed for new members, and then guaranteed in the long run. And the members contribute only 4%. So this is really important to understand that this how we have dramatically changed the system along the way during this path especially from 1969. So a few words about the pension savings in Iceland. You see the orange column there that is a pension fund, the mandatory part, pillar 2, and has grown very fast the last few years. And you see as well the blue column is the voluntary part, pillar 3. Blue column from the pension funds. Pillar 3, they provide as well pillar 3, and then other providers, the gray column. We had a good year in 2021 in terms of return, and as well, as I said earlier, the government put in a lot of money in 2016 and 17 to the system, so it's grown very fast. And you see as well the yellow line, it is the GDP, assets as in terms of GDP. It went above 200% in 2021, and has gone a little bit down the last couple of years. And then to the right, you see the real rate of return of the last few years, say 30 years, and you see the internet bubble in year 2000, and also the financial shock in 2008, with quite a bad year for the pension industry. But you still see if you see the red line there, it is the geometrical average of the system as a whole. It's 4.4%. It has delivered, like of course it different between pension funds, but it's still above this 3.5 discount rate. And we have just continue about the asset. We have a risk-based supervision more and more in place. We are developing that supervision, but we still have some investment limits. And we see from this slide, we have a rating of the risk rating of the assets, split of assets in 10 categories, and you can see you are allowed to invest 80% in assets from bonds issued by banks and down to derivatives, like 80% if you spread it between them. But there's a focus on counterparty risk. This is the most important now, the counterparty risk. And you see to the right, you see how the assets have changed since 1990. That it's getting more and more equity, and as well you see the yellow line, the more overseas investment, foreign exchange. So this is, and it has been recommended by the central bank. We need to, because of the size of the pension savings, we need to invest more in overseas or in foreign exchange to reduce the pressure on the domestic financial market, because the pension funds are all over places in the financial market in Iceland, investing in companies, listed equities, and some of them are in competition as well. So they are all over places, like so. It's about time they invest more overseas. And we have, of course, demographic challenges in Iceland, like in other countries in Europe, but we are maybe 10 or 20 years behind them in many ways. But you see, maybe hard to see that you see the population, the red line there. We are not so many, as you know. We are just under 400,000. And you see the dependency ratio, working age population against retirement, people on retirement age. So it's going down. You see, it has been going very steep down, and will continue in the years to come. And you see as well on the right side, you see the split between age groups. This, of course, is a challenge for the system, but it's good that in a strong point of view in our system that every generation save for their own retirement. That's the principle in our system. So we are not maybe in other countries which are more depending on a pay-as-you-go system. It's more problem there, you know. So, but I have to mention one thing, which is highly debated often in Iceland, that we have a strong interaction between Pillar 2 savings, pension savings, and the social security. If you have good pension income from the mandatory system and as well all other income, it will cut down your entitlements or the old age pension from the Pillar 1. You see, for instance, I'll take an example from this graph that you see here on the. You see, this is the Social Security old age pension. Here is a housing supplement from the Pillar 1 as well. This is for a single person. And if you have an income, you see steadily, if you pension income or whatever income you have, the Pillar 1 Pillar 1 old age pension will be reduced. So if you are coming up to income of $5,500 a month, you will get nothing. You will get nothing from the Pillar 1. And as well, the housing supplement will disappear gradually in the same phase. So this is, of course, important. That this is why, because of the strong savings and the heavy savings in the pension, this was decided many years ago in the pension policy, like early from like 1969 or 74, that the Pillar 2 should take over the Pillar 1 gradually.
5 minutes.
5 minutes left, yeah. Okay. I'm rolling. So this is, I have to mention, this is of course, not everybody are happy about this. So you have to understand that this is not highly criticized. And the labor force participation, I want to mention that just quickly, that this is the female participation has increased quite a lot the last 20 years. And you see it on the graph there, that latest OECD data I checked, it's totally 85.3%, and female 82.6%, and male 87%. So I've seen from OECD data, it is quite high in international comparison, and women and female are on the rise, for sure. That's very good. So, of course, we have challenges in the system. Every system is different in other countries. But foreign workers, they cover about 20% of the labor market in Iceland nowadays. For the last 15 years, it has increased a lot. That is mainly due to the tourism industry we have in Iceland. It has boomed very much, really on the rise, and a lot of people coming from overseas, working in the sector. And also constructor work, constructing. So this is a challenge, of course, in terms of financial literacy, and also those coming into the labor market. They come maybe in age 35 or 40, and they don't get this retirement benefit, retirement entitlements like it's meant to be in the system, like 40 years of contribution. They maybe have 20 years, so they will probably not get. So they will be a burden on the social security compared to other workers. So pension fund investment demand is 550 billion Icelandic kronas, like 11% of GDP. So there's quite a lot of money they need to invest. So this is a pressure on the domestic financial market. And they own half of the equity listed in the domestic market. So that can create a conflict of interest in the different companies listed. And the current female retirees, like in the 80s and 75, 80-year-old, they have a much lower benefits than male. So this is a challenge in the system, but this will improve, of course, the next decades to come. And they, of course, those female, they get, of course, benefits from the pillar one as a contribution, complementing it. So the conclusion, finally, or the takeaways from this session is there's one of the key factors in Iceland in this is a well-organized labor market. It's a small labor market, but very well organized. So I can say no informal sector. Maybe hard to say, but it's almost no informal sector. And occupation pension fully mandatory. That's very important. It's fully mandatory from 16 to 67. If you have an income, you have to pay the contribution. If you don't pay, the tax office, revenue tax office, will chase you up and collect the money and put it in a certain fund. So you cannot escape. And all wages are subject to this 15.5% pension savings. And as well, if we're looking at the Pillar 3 voluntary part, half of the labor market or the working age who are still working, they save half of the labor force save into the Pillar 3 voluntary part. And the collection of contributions and benefits is highly digitalized and very effective. So that's very important too. So that's I'm out of time, isn't it?
You are out of time, Björn, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gracias. Shall I sit down?
Thank you so much.
Shall I sit down there? Or?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Repito el ofrecimiento. Si queremos hacer una pregunta rápida o lo dejamos para el final de la mesa. Don't know if you want to
Igual
ask
sí, porque
something.
estamos con poco tiempo,
Yes.
pero solamente un comentario, porque realmente cuando uno escucha a Pablo, ¿no? y un poco todos esos principios del buen diseño de sistemas de pensiones privados y sobre todo los de contribución definida, y luego ve la realidad del diseño, ¿no? del caso islandés, pues parece que concuerda mucho, ¿no? con esos principios que comentaba antes Pablo, y sobre todo impresiona la resiliencia, ¿no? The resilience of the system. Not only it's a well-designed and solid system, but also one that has survived a major crisis, no? The crisis of the corona in 2008 and 2009, of course the latest crisis as well, the pandemic. We've seen rates of return drop in negative rates at some point of -20%, and yet you've been able to increase the contribution and make sure that the system is aligned with the objectives of the 72% replacement rate in a context of aging and increasing life expectancy. So I'm personally quite convinced. I don't know what Pablo, what your comment is on the Icelandic system, but it does seem like a good model, a very good model. One, of course, that is specific to the Icelandic situation, obviously, because you're a country of a lot of social dialogue and consensus building. Obviously, not every other country has that homogeneous and ability to reach agreements. But I think congratulations on the solidity, the resilience, and the good results. I love that 5% real return over 30 years. I mean, many of us would like to have that in our system over 3 decades, 5% real return.